So let's talk about AI, right? How can designers use AI to level up in their work? Because we've seen too many memes of how AI is going to kill your jobs. I want to hear the other perspective of you as you've been working in the design field. What do you think is the most efficient way, and what are some tools that you would recommend designers to dig deep into and understand how they work to streamline their workflow and get more productive?
So the mindset that I think is a very useful one when thinking about AI as a creative person, as a designer, is you want to use it to increase your floor, but also your ceiling. Now, what do I mean by that? For people starting out, you want to be above floor. So for example, if your work is really bad, you only have, you can make some stuff, but you clearly know it's not good. You know that if a client saw this, they're probably not going to want to hire you. All these are signals that you're kind of below floor, right? There is a certain level you need to be above to kind of pass off as a designer, to even start applying, to even have internal confidence. And I think AI can really help you here, because the main reasons people get stuck is just because uncertainty or just lack of clarity. It's just so many new terms. It's just so confusing. And so raising your floor, tools like ChatGPT, really good for this, right? You can actually have a conversation with ChatGPT, say, hey, I'm a student. I'm trying to learn UI UX design. This is what I know. Is it okay if I use you as a mentor to ask you questions? Right? Just set this context up. You will have this in your ChatGPT sidebar. And you can always come back here and say, hey, I'm facing a situation where this thing, and then how do I do this? So this really helps you cross this floor barrier. Most people, they wait for answers. They're like, okay, eventually, like a year later, people find out, oh, okay, that's how proposals work in freelancing. Versus the really motivated folks can just like, go through that floor very quick. So that's one thing. Outside of that, it can also raise your ceiling. So for example, if you're a designer who's not so good at, let's say, digital illustrations, digital art, but you still want to use this in your web pages or your websites or something like that, or in your thumbnails. Now, of course, you could learn the skills, go deep into that. But today you can use something like midjourney or some of the other alternatives available to now, just without any effort, just a little bit of tinkering, you now have a new skill that you've added on. So now this kind of increases your ceiling because a lot more new stuff is possible. So that would be my suggestion. In terms of tools, I think we're moving super fast. So I don't want to pin down anything. But in general, I would say keep an eye on ChatGPT, right? That is probably here to stay. That's probably after Figma, very likely that becomes your most used tool, especially given the trajectory we've seen this year. Outside of that, look into generative tools. So things like generating videos, generating images. A lot of these tools, I think we're still to see a lot of breakout tools here. There's a few, but these will really grow in this year. So you kind of want to be aware, you want to kind of be playing around with this, because you never know, one new tool drops and suddenly your ceiling of what's possible just goes up. You can just do a lot more.
Yeah, it's crazy how there are tools that can literally take a drawing and turn it into a complete Figma, file that you can then use and give it to a developer. Very interesting what is happening in that space.